welcome back to another fabulous reading channel. I'm Jacob from J Books Corner, and today we are talking about all the books I read in July. According to Goodreads, it's 25. According to Storybook, it's 26, but I cross-referenced all the books I've read. I have different places where they're like all stacked or whatever. I have a long running list of books, so I just don't really know where everything stands. We're gonna talk about 25 that's listed on Goodreads, basically in the order that I read them in, and I'm gonna tell you if you should read them, whole 9 yards in this video. I'm also at the very end of the video gonna tell you my favorite and least favorite books that I read. I try to pick new ones and not rereads, but sometimes you just gotta pick a reread for either the best or worst. Go ahead and get started. So I first started reading Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Volume 2, Once Bitten, which I ended up giving a 2.5 stars, rounding up on Goodreads for a total of 3 stars, but I still think that's a little generous, so we might dumb it down. I just really hate Buffy AU, and that means Buffy Alternate Universe, things that don't take place in timeline with the TV show, and this does not. This is a reboot series that Boom did, and this doesn't work for me. So many character changes and developments here that piss me off, and that's really all I have really to say on it. The next one, it would be The Order of Things by Kaja Langley. The Order of Things follows a girl who ends up experiencing an extreme great loss at a young age, and it's about instruments and going and trying to find yourself once this loss has happened and stuff. I will have to say, I think it's handled very well as a poetry collection, and I was curious to see how loss would be handled in a middle grade setting. To be fair, when I picked up the novel, I actually didn't really realize it was a middle grade novel. I picked it up thinking it was more under the lines of the Poet X, and I did not get that, but I still think it delivered what it needed to. For personal taste, I gave it a 3.5, but I'd highly recommend it for people who are going through similar experiences as our main character here. I think her name is Ava, and it was beautifully written nonetheless. Next one to talk about is Benny Rose, the Cannibal King by Haley Piper. Benny Rose is a urban legend in this world Haley Piper has created. I absolutely love Haley Piper's horror writing. It's beautiful. I've loved everything I read from her. I've never given her a 5-star, to be fair. They're always short, so I think that's the reason why. So I think the next one I pick up is a full-length novel. I think I found one that was a full-length novel of hers. This one, it follows a group of girls who ends up on a spooky night, ends up going over to the place where supposedly Benny Rose had died, and they slowly get murdered off by a ghost, maybe? I don't know. It's super fun. It's super addictive. Very gory. It's just a good time. I highly recommend. Could not recommend enough. The next one I read was The Parting Gift by Evan Bowenberg. This is about a guy who is retelling his experiences he spent over in Israel, falling in love with a farmer. It goes really weird as well. This one also got a 4 because I thought it was such beautiful writing. If you love things like Andre Hakim, For Calling Me By Your Name, or things are those lines, and you're looking for more in that wheelhouse, I kind of do recommend. It has that weird feeling vibe too that I think we all love, but I really felt like the first 30 to 40% was a perfect novel in my opinion. Could be considered one of my favorites of the year. And then the last half, there are some weird choices that the author decided to make that I personally just didn't agree with, and so it had to fall down to a 4.25 for those weird choices. I just couldn't support it. Then I read The Last Word by Taylor Adams. This is for a video coming up this month where I read 2 5-star predictions. I started to combine the 5-star prediction. This one follows a review critic who ends up giving a 1-star review to this, I guess, what I would call an extreme horror novel from an author. And now she believes she's being hunted by said author. The audiobook is phenomenal. I could not recommend it enough. It's one of the best audiobooks I've read this year. Of one particular thing, I don't want to give it away. I've seen other reviews and stuff of people who have read this who have given it away. And it's happened so early on in the story that I wouldn't count it as a spoiler. I personally found it so shocking that it happened. I don't want to give it away. There's a really cool early beginning twist. I laughed out loud while reading this. I had a blast. This is just your fun run-of-the-mill summer thriller, high octane thriller. I felt like the ending jumped the sharky in my opinion. It feels very Taylor Adams though, in his defense. It reminded me a lot of some of the newer Riley Sagars, if you guys understand what I mean by that. I much prefer this over Riley Sagar. Then I read Last Gamer Standing by Katie Zhao. This was a battle royale VR kind of Ready Player One type of situation. They are playing in this world, and our main character is a woman, and this book deals a lot with sexism in gaming places. So she is competing. She is underage, for one. She's not supposed to be competing in this competition because she is too young. But also, she is competing as a male avatar to get more respect from the male avatars, because when she originally tried to create a female avatar for this game, she was belittled and was horribly harassed and stuff. I think the message here is very good, and I feel like the ending was pretty rewarding as well. It wasn't a perfect 4 or perfect 3. It was like a 3.5. I definitely recommend it to like my younger sister when she gets a little bit older. I do think this one kind of rides more on like the 12-year-old states of aging. Then I read Corrine by Jade Song. I went and swam one day in July, and I was like, ooh, we should read this because I have it, and I did, and I loved it. It was phenomenal. It was fucked up. It was weird. This is about a girl who believes that the water is her home. This is extreme body horror. It's very graphic in sexual nature. There's a lot of uncomfortable scenes and a lot of uncomfortable, just a lot. I would say it gets really disturbing by the end as well. It reminded me of, I don't want to give it away because it's like a full spoiler. There's certain movies that came to mind when the ending finally came about. I felt like the ending was very on brand for this book. I would also say that I'd totally read more Jade Song. I absolutely loved her writing here. This was a 4-star for me, but it was like a 4.5. It was almost perfect. If I have a spot in my top 23 books of the year, this would definitely make its way in. It's definitely like an honorable mention, and it lived up to the hype, even if it wasn't like everything that I wanted. But if you like weird body horror fiction, this is definitely for you. I'd highly recommend it. Then I read Untitled, a collection of poems by S.V. Saga Siegel. This is a queer poetry collection. I can't really remember exactly what it's about. Another one that I really enjoyed. I gave it a 4. I liked most of the poems that I remember, but it didn't stick with me, so maybe it's more like a 3.5 in that regard, because it did not stick with me. I don't remember anything about it, but I remember liking it. So if you see it, I'm pretty sure it's self-published. I'd give it a whirl. Then I read Saga number 64 by Ryan K. Vaughn. This one got a 3. Nothing against this particular issue from Saga. It's just they don't get higher than that normally. They're between a 3 and a 4, depending on what I really liked about that particular storyline. But it's not until the volumes I reread everything that I truly get a good picture of what this story arc, I guess, would be rated. If you're going based on previous ratings so far, when it came back, it's been like a 4.25. I still don't think it's as good as it was before, and they still have yet to overcome the big shocking twist before they took their hiatus for like 3 years. Then I read Buffy 97 by Jeremy Lambert. This was a 1.5. This one is really just a 27-page short little issue of a comic book, and then we have a bunch of other shit that I've already read and other fabulous illustrated cover is what makes the majority of the last 115 pages. So the actual like little issue in here was told to me as a sitcom for Buffy, and I felt like that'd be like a really fun, really interesting way to do a story. And I thought it was gonna be 5 issues, and so it'd be like a fully developed character arcs and stuff, and it just wasn't what that was. Instead, they're transported into a magazine having to escape from it from like a wizard or whatever. And I felt like it was really stupid, and I didn't like it, and I didn't like the references, and I didn't like the drawings, and so this was the no for me. It was like a 1.5. Once again, I just don't like this type of Buffy AU, and I just keep picking it up. It's my fault, no one else. And then I read Nimona by N.D. Stevenson. I did not realize, this won a bunch of awards. I also did not realize that this was up for a Goodreads choice when I read it. This popped up as a movie on Netflix in the middle of July, towards the end of July. Our guest that was staying with us loved it, and we watched it like 4 or 5 times while he was here, and I was like, okay, I have to read what the source material is. The movie was 10 times better in my opinion. I felt like everything was much more fleshed out. I wouldn't actually say the actual romance was a plot twist, which is what the book makes it out to be, which was so interesting to me, and that's all I'll say on it. I didn't really like it. I gave it a 3. It was a really low end 3 though. I don't know if I'd recommend. I thought the art style kind of sucked. I'm not a big fan of plotty humor, and I also didn't realize it was an adult novel, and it very much, I would say, is on the higher end of the teen spectrum. I could definitely say it could still be read for teens, but it would be on the higher end of that spectrum. Every once in a while, I go through phases of my life where I want to pick up a Stephanie Meyer. I don't know why. It just, sometimes you need that nostalgia kick. And so I actually picked up The Short Life of Bree Turner, which is an Eclipse novella. This takes place during Eclipse. That's all I can say about it, in case you've never seen Twilight or read Twilight. I really liked it, to be fair. I think I gave it like a 3. It was like a 3.25. It was quite enjoyable. My biggest takeaway from it was, 1, it's a novella, so it's really short, so I read it very quickly, which was nice. 2, interestingly enough, it was one of those stories that after I got done reading it, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, Midnight Sun would be so good. And then I remembered Midnight Sun and I got sad. You can take that however you want to take it. It follows a vampire, and I felt like it was really done really well, but the vampire of Edward was just not. Then I read Gathering of Shadows by V. Slav. Gathering of Shadows was a 4-star. I much prefer this one over the first one. This is the second book in the Shades of Magic. She's doing a read-along on her YouTube page, and it has just been an absolute blast. And I just really love the inclusion of games and stuff into this one. I just had a lot more fun, and I felt like the ending was perfect. I'd like to mention that I'm like over halfway through the third one, and my god, is it fucking chaotic. I love it, but wow. Then I read The Batman Who Laughs by Scott Snyder. To be fair, I thought this was a Joker novel because of the cover. Screams Joker to me. That's a Batman. It's fine. Let's not talk about it. This is a alternate Black Label comic set in a world where Batman becomes like possessed by the Joker's like gas or whatever. And it did not work for me. It was like a 1.5. To be fair, it's my fault, which is what I feel like a lot of DC comics or Marvel comics that I walk into, I'm like, oh, I'll start here, and then it's actually, you need to start 6 issues behind it. That wasn't necessarily the case for this one, but that's basically the vibe I got from it, whereas I didn't feel like I had the whole story, and the story that I did get, I felt like was extremely underwritten. Then I read Berserker Volume 1 by Keanu Reeves. I picked this up because of good old Keanu, you know, and I felt like this was just a hogwash of a bunch of other shit that was done better, and I feel like Keanu, because he is the main character, they drew him as the main character and everything in the novel, was a horribly casted main character, which is weird to say for a graphic novel in my opinion, but that's how I feel, and I gave it a 2. Let's move on. And then I read Black Widow Volume 1, which is The Ties That Bind Us. Black Widow Volume 1 was phenomenal. It was a 5-star, perfect Black Widow novel. Honestly, just say go into it. Yeah, I just say go into it. I don't really have anything else to add. It's by Kelly Thompson. And then I also read Buffy the Vampire Slayer Volume 3 from Beneath You by Jordi Belair. This one I really hated as well. It also got like a 1.75. This one predominantly just talks about the characters outside of Buffy and not dealing with the actual Hellmouth, which was like the whole point of the event, and I was just really bored throughout the whole thing. Black Widow Volume 2, I Am the Black Widow by Kelly Thompson, because Volume 1 was so good, but Volume 1 ends in a way that I don't really think it's necessary to continue on with the series, and so I was reading it for you. Not for me, but for you. And I can come out and say, it's not worth it. I gave it a 3. I like some of the inclusion of some of the other characters are really nice. I like seeing other people that Black Widow obviously plays around with. But I felt like the story was extremely weak, and I did not enjoy it, and was not as interesting. The action is still very good. I still think Uber Dart draws the artwork for Kelly Thompson. Does a fucking phenomenal job here. I definitely would pick up more comics by them in their artistic style. I feel like this was just like a one-hit wonder, so I would just read Volume 1 and skip the rest of the series. It was canceled after 3 volumes. You're not really missing much. And they don't really do anything with what the Volume 1 sets up. They just jump you into a completely new story with like little hints and stuff that there's like a bigger story going on. That's just not necessary. That is a Findushi's Forbidden Fantasy Volume 1. I found this on Kindle Unlimited. I wanted a gay manga. This is about like a temporary roommate, and it's like a romance. It's a BL romance, and I enjoyed it. Nothing particularly wrong with it. It's just what it is. It's just what it is. So it was a 3. So if you are interested in stuff like this, I would recommend it for sure. Then I read Flashpoint by Jeff Johns. This was absolutely horrible. Another one that did not hit the bar running. I gave this one a 2.75 to a 3 star. The problem here is Flashpoint actually takes place in the middle of the 2016 run of DC. Technically, without any context to it, you're kind of just confused. It's also not the version of Flashpoint that I really wanted to read. I didn't realize I didn't want to read Flash's Flashpoint. I wanted to read Batman's Flashpoint. Me and my brother are going to be reacting to the Flash movie over as a movie commentary later on this month, and I wanted to be familiar with the story that they're trying to adapt. And to be fair, this is the story they were trying to adapt, so I guess I'll have some context there. But the Batman one's just way more interesting, and I just didn't. I picked up the wrong one. I also fucking hate Jeff Johns, so that does not help anything. I thought like the artwork was pretty nice. Most DC artwork, in my opinion, is. My only issue here is that there's a lot of side characters that get no context of who they are, and you just kind of have to go with the flow, and I didn't like it. It also, I felt like it was wrapped up too quickly, which is probably why there's like 9 other volumes that take place with different other characters set in this Flashpoint universe. Then ending out the month, I read Red Sonja Volume 2, The Art of Blood and Fire, which was just as good as Volume 1, if not just a little bit better, so it was like a 4.25 instead of a 4. I love the character Red Sonja, and I think the writing here is just just so good by Gail Simone. So if you're interested in the character, or if you're familiar with the character and you're curious to read a run of hers, this is the version I recommend. I'm having the best time. And those were the books that I read in the month of July. My only 5-star book I read this month was Black Widow Volume 1, The Ties That Bind, and so I would say that's probably my favorite book, if not The Last Word or Benny Rose the Cannibal King. Those three are my top contenders for sure. We know what your least favorite and favorite book of the month was. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys next time.